Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, fellow dregs to society. Welcome, all you rock dwellers. Welcome, all of you who are in Facebook jail or suspended by Twitter. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show, literally and figuratively. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And joining me today as my co-host is the patriot from the battle-born state, the silver state of Nevada. That's Sharron Engel. Sharron, welcome back to Conservative Commandos.
Thanks, Rick. It's always fun to be here after that long news weekend. And of course, I always look to see what would be of particular interest to our audience, but also to you. And I know we've been having a lot of heartburn here at Conservative Commandos radio show over the banning of our website by Facebook because they said our content was objectionable, and you've been calling out for over a week to say what's the objection. We just cover the news. We don't do anything that television isn't already doing or radio isn't already doing. So how can they object? But anyway, I was looking through and I found that the Supreme Court deals Apple a major setback in the Apple Store antitrust case. The Supreme Court ruling 5-4 allows iPhone users to pursue their antitrust lawsuit against Apple in a case involving its signature electronic marketplace, the App Store. Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote the majority opinion, which was joined by the court's liberal justices. The iPhone users argued that Apple's 30% commission on sales through the App Store was passed along to the consumers as unfair use of the monopoly power. Apple argued that only app developers and not users should be able to bring such a lawsuit. The Supreme Court allows Apple Store lawsuit to continue, and the Supreme Court on Monday ruled 5-4 against Apple, saying iPhone users can pursue their antitrust lawsuit involving the tech giant's signature electronic marketplace, the App Store. So, all right, there you go. So at least they're thinking antitrust when it comes to these big folks. Apple, of course, does have other competition. I know my daughter has a Droid, I believe. She doesn't use the Apple iPhone, and so her marketplace is a little different. And I know lots of others have been moving out of the Apple iPhone market just because they are expensive and because they have found a better product, which is really what helps the marketplace work. But this idea that somehow you can corner the market and not allow competition, that's why we have antitrust laws, is to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to impact the market. We shouldn't be picking winners and losers with the government, and part of that is this whole idea that we have with the Tesla group that has been doing that with government for years, where they go and get government subsidies in order to make them a winner over their competition. But this idea that we should allow companies to have a corner on the market is also a way of curbing competitive enterprise. So I knew that would make you happy to know that at least they're looking at that.
Well, they're looking, but what I'm about to say is going to kind of surprise you, Sharron. I think companies have the right to produce a profit. I think they should have the right to produce as big a profit as they can, because what I believe this stirs competition. Now, when a company tries to squash its competition illegally, that's a problem. However, I think that, well, if Apple's making all this profit, other companies, other individuals, other entrepreneurs, other creators and inventors, they should look at that and say, hey, we want a piece of that pie. I like that. What I don't like is when you have a company out there that owns a total monopoly and tries to stop others from getting into that business. For instance, back in the day, around the turn of the 1900s, whatever century, I guess that was the 20th century, there was an organization of car manufacturers that had a monopoly on that. And for you to produce a car, you had to go to them to get a license. I think, or you had to be licensed by them to manufacture an automobile. Yeah, I'm against that. What I have a problem with is, let's just talk about Facebook for a minute. Facebook has banned the conservative commandos. They have banned our website. You cannot even post our website URL on Facebook. You'll get a message that says this site violates their community standards. I think that we should have a right to free speech. I think that they are discriminating against us because of our conservative views. I challenge anybody to go on our website. By the way, it's www.ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com. I challenge anybody to go on that website and find anything that is objectionable, is obscene, is a lie, is false, is misleading. I challenge you to do that. Now, interesting enough, and you got me going here, Sharron. You got me going.
I knew I would, Rick.
You got me going, Sharron. So they say that we are in violation of their community standards. When we ask for a review, you can push a little button that says review this. They have not reviewed our website. It's still under review. And it's been 2 weeks now that this has been under review. And the other frustrating thing is, how do you get a hold of somebody at Facebook to talk to them? Find out, hey, what's going on here? Please point to me, or please point to us. Anything that is objectionable on our website. You can't. That's the problem I have with these big social media organizations. But what I'm hoping for, Sharron, is I'm hoping for other creative individuals, other entrepreneurs, other companies to come up with viable competition for Facebook, for Twitter, for Google, for YouTube, and all the others. That's what I want.
Well, there are some Supreme Court judges, the conservative ones, that agree with you, Rick. The case split President Donald Trump's two nominees in the High Court. In the dissent, joined by his fellow conservatives, were John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Justice Neil Gorsuch, who wrote "The majority created an artificial rule." And I thought the other thing that was interesting about this case is that the result of the iPhone's users' litigation could affect the way that Apple, as well as other companies that operate electronic marketplaces like Facebook, Amazon, and Alphabet's Google, structure their businesses. So the discussion is on. The discussion is on, and it's in the courts. And I think that it's a good thing to have this discussion and see what happens with these companies now that they know that there are individuals who are saying, wait a second, there's something wrong with the way you're doing business here. And certainly, perhaps Apple is not in the wrong on this, but it just spurs people who are using Facebook, Google, Twitter on to say, if the Supreme Court was willing to hear this one, what about our case? What about a case that looks like the IRS was targeting conservatives? Because that's what I have against Facebook, is they're targeting. It's not just a random, we don't like your content. They're targeting conservatives because they don't share our point of view. And that is what is against our constitutional liberties, especially our free speech liberties in the First Amendment. So that's where I think we need to have this discussion and find out if a private company, because they're in this free market, do they have a right to violate people's free speech?
Well, not just free speech, discriminate. They're a content carrier, Sharon. And should they have the right to pick and choose what content that they can and should be carrying? I don't think so. I think that is discriminatory. I think it's very discriminatory beyond free speech. I believe it's discriminatory.
So you're calling the Facebook bigots out today?
Well, I am. And not only that, I'm calling for all our listeners and viewers and all their friends and everyone they know to put out this cry. Boycott Facebook advertisers. Let the advertisers on Facebook know that what Facebook is doing is discrimination. It's a violation of First Amendment rights, and that we are not going to buy their products. We are not going to click on their links as long as Facebook has these policies discriminating because of one's views. Sharon, what's interesting, they'll discriminate against conservative views. They don't discriminate against liberal views. They don't discriminate against Muslim views. They don't discriminate against the LGBTQ views. It's only conservative Christian views that they discriminate against. Don't buy from their advertisers. Don't click on their links. Put a comment whenever you see a Facebook ad. Put a comment underneath of there that Facebook discriminates against conservatives. Boycott Facebook advertisers. We've got to put that message out. Sharon, I think that's what we need. Sharon, got to go to a break because we got three great guests joining us once again today, and we have to tell our audience who they are and what they'll be talking about. And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. Today's show, like all our shows, is being brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. Don't go away. Sharon and I will be right back with our guest.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving, and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The secret war is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. And once again, help us fight back against Facebook, Google, Twitter, YouTube, and all these liberal monopolies. We're banned. Our website is banned from Facebook. So go on Facebook, look for their ads. Do not buy from those companies, except put a comment under the post. We will not support Facebook advertisers because they discriminate against conservatives. We got to get this message out. We've got to get this message out to companies who advertise on Facebook that Facebook is discriminating, that they are losing a large chunk of the money out there because by advertising on Facebook, they are supporting Facebook and their discrimination against conservatives like Conservative Commandos and many other. Sharron, 3 great guests joining us today. Who are they?
Well, first we have Frank Vernuccio, who serves as the editor-in-chief of the New York Analysis of Policy and Government, providing objective coverage of key issues facing the United States today. Frank is the co-host of the Vernuccio Novak Report nationally, both on broadcast radio and the web at amfm247.com. Frank also co-hosts the American Political Zone, broadcast on cable in eastern Connecticut. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attack, Frank Vernuccio was appointed to the New York Governor's George Pataki to lead the hard-hit New York County Workers' Compensation Board. And we asked Frank to come on and talk about efficiency and transparency, how Mulvaney reformed the CFPB. The CFPB.
Yeah, and that's the Consumer Finance and Protection Bureau created by Barack Obama.
Right. So we'll have Frank to explain all about that. Our next guest is Patrice Lee Onwaka, who is a senior policy analyst at Independent Women's Forum. She has worked in the advocacy and communications field for more than a decade, and prior to joining the IWF, Patrice served as the national spokeswoman and communications director for Generation Opportunity and worked at the Philanthropy Roundtable and the Fund for America Studies in Policy and Media Roles. She also held consulting roles as a speechwriter for the United Nations spokesman and a manager for the student travel program to South Africa. We've asked her to come on and talk about Twitter banning, AOC parody site, as progressive privilege at its finest. So she's going to talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, her executive privilege there at Twitter.
Well, what it is, Sharron, is there is a parody. Mm-hmm. There's a parody site that focuses on AOC. It's not this Twitter site is not hers. Doesn't have anything to do with it, but it is a parody site. Now, there's parody sites, and we'll find this out from Frank Vernuccio. There are parody sites for other people like Donald Trump and Kellyanne Conway. All right, Twitter has no problem with those, but a parody site of AOC, well, no, that's taboo. We can't have that. So that's what this is all about. The fact that Twitter has banned this parody account for AOC, but not for the likes of Kellyanne Conway and Donald Trump.
Again, we're talking about discrimination here by these pretty much monopoly social media giants. Our last guest is Robert Knight, who is a Washington Times contributor. His experience includes editor and writer of the Los Angeles Times, a regular weekly columnist for the Washington Times, townhall.com, and onenewsnow.com. Robert was a media fellow for the Hoover Institute. He held senior positions with the Heritage Foundation, Family Research Council, Concerned Women for America, Media Research Center, and his latest books are A Strong Constitution, What Would America Look Like If We Followed the Law, and A Nation Worth Fighting For, 10 Steps to Restore Freedom. We've asked Robert to come on and talk about an article he wrote, The Cyberbullies Moment. The cyberbullies moment sounds more like our stuff that's going on with Twitter and Facebook. They are cyberbullies.
Well, in particular, his article is about a Pennsylvania state legislature who is bullying teenage girls and an elderly woman. So we'll get into that with Robert Knight. Well, Sharron, there is an actress. I don't know much about her. Alyssa Milano, she's out there. I don't know what she's on. I don't know what she's famous for other than she's an actress. Well, she's doing something that I call, and she's protesting, she's striking. And I'm all for that. As I said, I want conservatives to strike against Facebook advertisers. So she has a problem with the heartbeat bill. All right. Melissa Milano has a problem with the heartbeat bill. So she is calling for a sex strike. And that's women to abstain from sex until Donald Trump reverses till the heartbeat bill is overturned. Well, I'm all for that.
I am too.
I'm all for when liberals abstain from sex. And there's several reasons for that. Is one, they won't be spreading any sexually transmitted diseases to society. Also, they won't be having liberal kids. So I'm all for this. Let her protest, let her strike, let her have this sex strike. I support her.
Well, I think you're right in supporting her. I have a couple of other reasons for supporting this. The first one is we've been talking to our kids about this for years and years, that abstinence is really the best policy when it comes to being in school and being unmarried. There's just a lot of reasons to abstain from sexual activity, and we've been talking about that. You mentioned the STDs. I just think we need to get back to good old-fashioned morals, and there you have it. Abstinence is a good moral stand. The second thing that I think that you kind of brushed over, but honestly, Christian conservatives do not have abortions. It's the liberals that do. So if they're abstaining, they won't be getting pregnant and they won't be having more abortions. We probably could control the number of abortions that are done every year if more liberals would abstain. And, it is better and more effective, I believe, than the heartbeat bill, because if you're not having a child there that's in danger of being aborted, then you don't have to talk about what makes him viable in the womb. So I believe she's on the right track. I support her. We should contact her. I think our audience should contact her and ask how we can get on this bandwagon and support abstinence across the country, because I can see just a whole lot of benefit to it.
Yeah, well, if she has a problem with Georgia's heartbeat bill, well, then she should don't go to Georgia. I'm sure the people of Georgia will not miss her. But now, please, liberals everywhere withhold sex. I love that idea. Less liberals out there, less sexually transmitted disease. And Sharron, isn't abstinence a conservative idea? Well, maybe this Alyssa Milano, all right, maybe she's following what Churchill said, if you're not a liberal by the age of 20, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative by the age of 40, you have no brain. Maybe she's starting to get a little brain. I doubt it, but, we can hope.
Well, maybe she's a closet conservative, too, because we know those exist in Hollywood. People are pretty afraid in Hollywood to come out with their conservative values until they've made a name for themselves, because it's pretty difficult to succeed in Hollywood if you are a conservative.
All right. Well, Sharron, we have to take a break, and on the other side, we're going to be talking about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and how President Trump's nominee or the fellow that holds that position has done some good. Don't go away. We'll be talking with Frank Vernuccio on the other side of this break.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcast, please check out our website. Even though you can't see it on Facebook, check out our website, ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com. And you can find our radio show there, our TV show there, a lot of terrific information and a lot of great articles. And with that, Sharron, please make the next introduction of our longtime friend.
Well, it is a pleasure to introduce Frank Vernuccio, who serves as editor-in-chief of the New York Analysis of Policy and Government, providing objective coverage for key issues facing the United States today. Frank is the co-host of the Vernuccio Novak Report. Nationally, both are broadcast on radio and web at Connecticut at amfm247.com. Frank also co-hosts the American Political Zone, broadcast on cable in eastern Connecticut. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attack, Frank Vernuccio was appointed by New York's Governor George Pataki to lead the hard-hit New York County Workers' Compensation Board. Frank, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Sharron, Rick, it's great to be with you again.
Well, we found an article, Efficiency and Transparency, How Mulvaney reform the CFPB. Explain first the CFPB, and then we'll talk about the reforms.
I wish I could easily explain the CFPB. It's the Consumer Protection Financial Board. It's a sort of weird organization originally set up during the Obama administration. And if you recall, there was a lot of objection that this was sort of an organization out of control. It was taken away from the control of Congress. It is an example of the trend, Rick and Sharron, that we all face in this country, that so many of the decisions that affect our daily lives are not ruled by our elected officials or by the courts, but by unelected, faceless bureaucrats who appear to be accountable to nobody. Now, when we look at how the CFPB was set up, it was set up specifically to make sure that it was unaccountable. And there was a weird situation that occurred, you recall, after the Obama administration was over and the president of this, the head of the CFPB resigned. The new president, President Trump, did what presidents are supposed to be able to do, appoint the new chief. Yet the person who was second in command insisted that she, rather than the president of the United States, had the ability to decide who was going to be in control. And I see Rick, and he's shaking his head, and he's absolutely right. I mean, this was a ludicrous argument. It had no constitutional basis, no legal basis, but it's good to remember the incident because, we talk a lot about the deep state. You cannot find a better example of the deep state in action than what the CFPB personnel attempted to do.
Wow. That's a mouthful. But, in reading your article, you say there are 1,300 separate federal organizations that are part of this.
Sharron, I deal a lot with small business organizations. I try to help them out a bit in various bureaucratic issues. And I got to tell you, the most well-meaning, the most law-abiding, scrupulous small business people are having a hard time complying with regulations they might not know how to exist. Now, the folks in Washington might not believe this, but a small business person doesn't spend the first 4 hours of his workday reading the Federal Register to determine what regulation he might run afoul of. It's been said that if you live in a large city, if you run a small business any place in the country, you can't get up, brush your teeth, and cross the street without breaking some federal regulation that you didn't even know existed.
Well, and it's interesting to note that Senator Elizabeth Warren has proclaimed this her brainchild.
Well, you can't question Native American wisdom. So I guess this is something that her chief or Sachem at some point told her all about. Look, if it's her brainchild, then she should be royally embarrassed. There's a point at which you have to say, what does government by the people, for the people, and of the people really mean? And if, as the left wants us to believe, that it's government by unelected, unappointed, unaccountable bureaucrats, well, that's not government. And I don't want to be excessive here, but that's tyranny.
Well, you're right. Now, if President Trump wanted to, couldn't he executive order this CFPB out of existence?
I believe there's some legislative background that would make it difficult for him to do so, which is a problem in and of itself. One of the tacks the left has taken after the election of 2016, which they lost, has been to try to continue with the policies of the left by usurping the constitutional prerogatives of the President of the United States. And by the way, this is not just with bureaucracies, this is with the courts as well. We've seen the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals attempt to override the president's powers in terms of foreign affairs, immigration, national security with ridiculous rulings. Eventually they're overruled by the Supreme Court. But the sheer specter of a couple of judges in one circuit trying to make foreign policy over the will of the President of the United States in complete defiance of the Constitution, that's something I think most Americans never expected to see.
Well, certainly I didn't even know that there were 1,300 of these bureaucracies that are just out there rogue, renegade, if you will, without any supervision. So it's not surprising that the CFPB has kind of flown under the radar for most of us conservatives. You talk about 44 Democrat senators who hastily signed the argument against Mulvaney's selection. Who did Mulvaney select, and what's their objection?
Well, the objection was that they didn't get to select him. Plain and simple. You know, we've seen 44 Democrat senators and the majority of the House of Representatives try to rule the country without the majority in the Senate and without the President of the United States, and certainly without the Supreme Court. So it's a real problem.
Well, you said that they didn't like his pick because they wanted someone more outspoken against Wall Street. What does that mean?
Well, you know what that means. It's the old left-wing saw that Wall Street are a bunch of right-wing plutocrats who are absolutely running the country, you know, behind the scenes. Here's the secret story, though, of course. We know that in the last election, and in the election before that, and in the election before that, most of the Wall Street money went to liberal Democrats, not to conservative candidates. Right now, of course, we're in a certainly difficult phase. The president is doing what other presidents should have done a long time ago and stand up to China. But we're seeing all the bleating and the screaming from Wall Street that stock prices are dropping, not realizing, of course, that beating back China and its unfair trade practices will cause a major economic increase for the United States for decades and decades to come.
Well, great. And I look at your article, and it says that they're now giving them no funding. The agency gets no funding, zero funding. Is that a way to starve them out?
The agency head himself requested no funding until the mission of the organization was actually out there. Look, we've seen over probably the past 75 or 80 years how the bureaucracy has tried to overtake the democracy. And these organizations just never seem to go away. It's kind of like the old joke about a temporary tax. You know, there's no such thing as a temporary tax. Right. They just continue on in perpetuity. There doesn't seem to be any such thing as a temporary federal agency either. You know, a lot of people in government, particularly in the conservative side of the ledger, have said, shouldn't we at some point sit back, take a look at all these government bureaucracies and decide whether they really need to exist at all? You know, when you look at how the federal government is structured and how the entire country is supposed to be structured by the Constitution, is it right that the federal government has its arms in education, in so many different things that was never the purpose of the federal government to begin with? It was always conceived that the federal government was going to protect the nation, settle disputes between the states, protect the constitutional rights of individual Americans. This monstrosity which has occurred, particularly since the 1930s, has been outside of anything the Founding Fathers envisioned or expected.
Well, we are talking with our guest, Frank Vernuccio, who has been talking about the CFPB, an errant, one of 1,300 errant regulatory commissions that was set up by President Obama, and now they've gone completely rogue. So you'll want to continue to listen to us after we come back from this break. We're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch our TV show on the AUN TV network in those great liberal places of San Francisco, San Rafael, Marin, North Bay, San Jose, Silicon Valley, Santa Rosa, Wine Country, Redding, Chico, Sacramento, Monterey, and soon to come to Nevada. We'll see how that works out. We'll be right back after this short break with Rick Trader. I'm Sharron Angle and our guest, Frank Vernuccio.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
Elkins goes to vote for merit.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Hartman, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect. How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
People die and fall for the right it's too brutal.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. I want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to us on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Long Beach, California, and now in Arlington, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Our guest this segment is Frank Vernuccio. Frank is the co-host of the Vernuccio-Novak Report and the co-host of the American Political Zone, which is also seen on AUN TV in Northern California. Thanks for Frank. Thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
You know, Rick, I just wanted to add one thing that I thought of as the break was going on.
Sure.
With 1,300 federal agencies really running the government, can you blame Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for not realizing that there are 3 branches of the federal government?
Oh, maybe she calls them the 1,300 branches of the federal government.
Right up there with President Obama, who you recall in his first election campaign talked about the 57 states.
Yes, yeah. Hey, Frank, these 1,300 separate federal organizations, they weren't all created by Barack Obama, were they?
Oh, no, of course not. These have been going right back to the 1930s.
Yeah.
So it's been a long-standing thing.
So this liberal lunacy has been going on for a while. Frank, unaccountable. It's an unaccountable bureau. I mean, whose great idea is that? And unaccountable, my God, they could be a rogue government within a rogue government.
Yeah, they certainly could. But the whole purpose was, I understand how the Democrat left thinks.
Yeah.
They don't like to lose elections.
I understand that, but don't try to get my head wrapped around on what makes a Democrat think or what they think it is. You know, I just don't have the pay grade for that.
Well, the high idea of making an agency in the structure of the CFPB was that if, in fact, that unlikely event that the Democrats foresaw could not happen, of losing an election, it would be outside the jurisdiction of the elected government. Most of what we see on the left is an attempt to overcome the will of the American people. Let's be blunt. They don't really like this whole democracy republic thing. They, like any good socialist, want to make sure that the small group of people who are so much better than the rest of us get to permanently rule and permanently put their stamp on the government. And you do that by making a bureaucracy that you and I don't vote for, but that continues on in perpetuity, which the privileged elite have the tendency to run. Because, after all, again, they're so much better than the rest of us.
Absolutely. Frank, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, what was its original mission? What was it supposed to do? Like you said, that it has much to do with Wall Street. I mean, how is guarding Wall Street, how is that protecting the consumer? I mean, what is the mission of this organization originally? Or what was the mission originally?
You remember, Rick, that this came out of the Great Recession, the 2007, so many people lost out on money and things of that sort. Theoretically, the public purpose of it, of course, was to protect investors, protect consumers from the practices of stockbrokers, Wall Street, whatever. You know, it's sort of amorphous, I think, if you really look at it. But as with any bureaucracy, there's mission creep, and basically it was protecting us against ourselves because we're just too stupid to run our own financial lives.
Well, am I correct in thinking that Elizabeth Warren was the brainchild of this?
She claims to be, but this was more a conglomerate of a bunch of left-wing Democrats rather than Elizabeth Warren personally. But certainly she had a significant hand in it. It is a left-wing idea, and she was one of the matrons of left-wing ideas.
All right. Well, what I'm getting to is she's had a long reputation as hating banks.
Yes.
And I just was wondering if maybe this wasn't part of her personal vendetta against banks.
Probably was. I mean, I can't get into her head. I don't know what her personal motives are. I don't know what her spirit animal is. But I suppose that was part of her thinking.
Crow or wolf or bear, one of the... You know, Frank Vernuccio, you have a great sense of humor. That's one of the things I like about you. A little dry, and I love a dry sense of humor. You know, Frank, I, like Sharron, can't get over this idea that this is one of approximately 1,300 separate federal organizations that are part of America's national government. Could you give me a few other examples of these 1,300?
Well, they're ones that involve... I have a copy right here of the federal handbook. And it's amazing that we have a handbook that's about 1,000 pages long that lists all these other bureaucracies. But you can go more by type of activities. For example, if you're a farmer, and you happen to have a large puddle on your property or a small lake on your property, we know that subdivisions of the Environmental Protection Agency will tell you that somehow or other that puddle or that little lake is a navigable river. That somehow the EPA and the federal government has control over that because of it. If you are a fellow up in Maine who fishes for lobsters and sends them down to New York City or Connecticut or any place around the country, there are federal agencies that tell you what type of container you can put your lobster in for shipment. So you get into ridiculously small things like that. Can you imagine some guy, he lives on the coast of Maine, he follows in his daddy's footsteps, he goes out with a couple of traps, he collects lobsters to make a few extra bucks, he sells them to restaurants in New York City, and then he finds out that all of a sudden some regulation was passed telling them that he can't use a styrofoam container, he has to use something else. This is the type of things that Americans are facing.
Yeah, we had a guest on last week, Frank. Gentleman was talking about the new type of gas can. It actually takes 3 ends to use. I guess that's part of that garbage. Well, Mick Mulvaney, President Trump has appointed acting director Mick Mulvaney, and this is because Cordray stepped down as director to run for governor, allowing the president to do this. Acting director, why is acting part of his title?
Well, until the process is confirmed by the White House, and I guess there's supposed to be some Senate oversight, although that's debatable in the way the CFPB is set up. Mm-hmm. But until he's actually confirmed, that's why he's acting. Okay. You also have down here that, and you and Sharron were talking about this, that acting director Mulvaney requested absolutely zero funds for the agency for the second quarter of FY 2018 until it was clear how and when to spend the funds. That makes sense to me, but apparently that's rubbing the Democrats the wrong way. Well, looking at it from the Democrats' perspective, they have a lot to worry about. If this does set a precedent, then all of those 1,300 or so agencies might at some point be challenged to state what their real mission is and what their real authority is. Otherwise, they get zeroed out in the budget. So the Democrats are absolutely right to be concerned about this, but the American people should be thrilled about it because maybe this is one of those avenues we can start to take if we have enough authority. If we keep the White House, if we take back the House, maybe we can start going through these agencies one by one. And if we are successful in doing that, knock them out of the ballpark. On a side note, Frank Fernuccio, Executive Order 1377-1, requiring all agencies to eliminate 2 regulations for every new regulation put in place. How's that working? It's actually starting to work fairly well. The high water mark for regulations was during the Obama administration. I don't recall the exact number, but we reached more pages in the Federal Register than we ever had before, more new regulations. Right. The point that the president makes, and a lot of people, Chamber of Commerce and others make, is that it is impossible for a business person to keep up with this nonsense, with these increased regulations that never stop. So the idea is to knock down the regulations to a small but manageable number. Now, the cliche that ignorance of the law is no excuse. You're still guilty if you broke a law that you didn't know exist. But the Anglo-American jurisprudence background of that was really the common law. That it's not right to steal. It's not right to rustle your neighbor's cattle. It's not right to rob or rape or kill. Those are common things. But if you ship your lobster in the wrong type of box, that's not something that you grew up knowing all about. No, absolutely not. New York Analysis of Policy and Government, you're the editor-in-chief. What do you guys do there? Well, we try to take a look at the various issues facing the country, and rather than do the screaming head routine, we put in research, real research, try to look at what the law says, try to look what the facts say, and produce one article a day, 6 days a week on those issues. And we hope to provide a more in-depth look at the issues rather than the kind of nonsense that you see in the Washington Post and the New York Times. Well, Frank, you do that research, and I'll do the screaming head thing. How's that work? I got Sharron here. She tries to simmer me down every now and then. Frank Fernuccio, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Please tell our audience how they can keep track of what you do, what you write, where you talk,
What radio stations, what TV stations, Frank, you're all over?
Well, the best way is usagovpolicy.com. Listen to the Conservative Commandos. Listen to the AUN Television Network. That's the best way to keep in touch with us. And by the way, if you send us your email, send that to truthandradio@gmail.com, and we'll put you on our free list. You'll get a summary of our weekly reports every week.
All right, Frank Vernuccio, we want to thank you once again for joining us. Say hello to Daria for me, all right?
I certainly will.
Talked to her for a while.
It's been great being with you both.
Take care, and God bless.
You too.
And you are listening and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, we're going to be talking about Twitter banning the AOC parody site. It's progressive privileges at its finest. Don't go away. Sharron and I will be back with our next guest.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is Sharron Angle. For rebroadcasts of our show, check out our website, CCRShow.com. That's CCRShow.com. And on there, you'll find rebroadcasts of our radio show, our TV show there. A lot of great articles and a lot of great information. At least we think so. Facebook, not so much. But with that, Sharron, please make the introduction of our next guest.
Well, it's always an honor to introduce Patrice Lee Onwuka, who is a senior policy analyst at Independent Women's Forum. Patrice has worked in the advocacy and communication fields for more than a decade, and prior to joining IWF, Patrice served as National Spokeswoman and Communications Director at Generation Opportunity, and worked at the Philanthropy Roundtable and the Fund for American Studies in Policy and Media roles. She also held consulting roles as a speechwriter for the United Nations spokesman and manager for a student travel program to South Africa. Patrice, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you so much, Sharron. And Rick, it's great to see you all.
Well, you have written a couple of articles that we're interested in, but I'm going to focus on the first one. Twitter banning AOC parody site is progressive privilege at its finest. So we have we say that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, is one of our most prolific topics here on Conservative Commandos radio show. We have a good time with her stuff because obviously, I would never send a child of mine to Boston College after finding out that she graduated from there with a degree in economics, and then what she did to New York City economically. She just provides a lot of content for humor. And there's a parody out there that has said, she's great. We could just make her our total focus. Well, somehow Twitter doesn't think it's funny. Is that right? What's going on?
That's a good point, Sharron. Yes, AOC provides plenty of fodder, and not even personal attacks. I mean, just her economic thinking really is head scratching very often. So you have a Twitter account called @AOC Press that gained some attention. They had apparently over 85,000 followers. They would literally just take what she said and turn it around into a parody, which probably was very easy to do. Well, Twitter didn't like that too much and recently banned them permanently. Even the guy who ran the account, his personal Twitter page was also banned. And Twitter says that I guess the parody was I don't think they really gave an answer for why they were banned. And the irony here is I did a quick search and found Trump parody accounts, Kellyanne Conway parody accounts that were much smaller, but were certainly still in full effect. So I think this is progressive privilege at its finest, meaning if you're a progressive, if you're a liberal, you get away with a lot more, or you get treated with kid gloves compared to if you are a conservative. And I think that's what's going on here. At least we don't have any evidence to point to anything else.
We here at Conservative Commandos radio show have been feeling a pinch ourselves with Facebook. We haven't quite managed to get ourselves acknowledged by Twitter yet. But it seems that there is a liberal bias against anyone conservative on whether it's Facebook or Twitter. And how would you think about this as discrimination? Do you think this is discrimination? And don't we have laws against that kind of stuff?
Well, it certainly seems like conservative accounts, conservatives on social media are the targets at a greater rate than I think progressives or those on the left. I mean, there's a reason why Antifa continues to have Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts, and they certainly advocate for and use violent means to get their point across. And then you've got conservatives like Ben Shapiro and some other folks on the right, some call them far right, I don't know, but who have been banned, been literally kicked off of platforms. What I really worry about, Sharron, is when you consider that, I believe it was 2016, Facebook admitted that some of their staff were stifling, they were controlling the trending topics to keep out conservatives and conservative topics from trending. And that's a really important feature because people look at what's trending to see what's going on in the world. So if you're censoring what is hot and happening, then you are controlling what people are seeing and you're controlling the discourse. So you've got here the Mark Zuckerbergs, you've got here the Facebook founders talking about, maybe we've been aggressive in the past and they plan to fix it. Well, I don't know about you, but it seems like they still have a lot of work to do, especially if they claim to be a public sphere or a place for democracy and freedom of speech.
Well, in your article, you say Twitter is not a government or public square. It can set rules for who can or cannot engage on the platform. However, the company opens itself up to criticism when it claims to be a place for free speech. Twitter says, and this is a quote, this is a platform for users to share and receive a wide range of ideas and content. So they seem to be violating their own policy here if they really are interested in free speech.
Well, yeah, I think that's the challenge. I mean, we totally understand that these are private companies. And as a private company, you get to set your own rules. You get to determine who comes on and off your platform and for what reason. That's totally fine. We as users, we have to abide by those guidelines if we want to participate. However, if you are saying that you are a public square, a place for freedom of thought, of different viewpoints, then it seems very hollow if you claim that's your mission statement, but your actions demonstrate something totally different. And I think that's the challenge that a lot of social media companies are facing. They want to claim to be and provide a place where different viewpoints are provided, but at the same time, they're trying to censor different types of content. And there may be good reason for censoring. Like, I don't think we want to see Islamic extremists, for example, pushing out their opinions. But do we really need to censor, Black conservatives who, like President Trump? That's a good question to ask.
Okay, so now we have a name. I want to name a name here so that our listeners can know exactly who these guys are, because that always is an irritation to me when someone says, well, they said. Well, we want to know who this guy is, and you put it right here in your article. Twitter's CEO, Jack Dorsey, even remarked that they were too aggressive in banning conservative accounts. He said they would fix the problem. Well, how's he going to do that? And how should we urge him to do that? Is there a way for us to get more proactive, if you will, with the CEO there at Twitter, Jack Dorsey?
Well, I mean, I think there's something to using his own platform to kind of holding him accountable to the words he's spoken. Retweeting his own tweets and from that speech, for example, is a good starting point. They say the best way to put out your opinion is your money. So if conservatives left Twitter en masse, I think that would be a very interesting situation. Imagine if President Trump decided to shut down his Twitter account. I mean, boy, oh boy. That would be bad, because then we don't get to hear from the president directly.
Wait, didn't they do that already at one point?
They might have.
They did that about a year ago. They shut down his account. They had to reopen it and apologize. But for a time, sorry to interrupt, Sharron, but for a time they did exactly that, Patrice. They shut off Donald Trump's Twitter account.
Well, and they can do that. But I think if we decide, we need to find a different platform. I mean, the free market is great because that's where competition comes in. The challenge is that Twitter is massive, I guess, billions potentially of users, or at least hundreds of millions of users right now. So anyone starting out, they're going to start out from a position of David versus Goliath. But that's not to say that nothing is impossible. If you can remember back, I remember before there was Facebook, there was Friendster, if I remember that right. I think Friendster was the bigger social media platform way back when, and now it doesn't even exist. So, anything is possible in a free market system.
Well, so we need to find Jack Dorsey, right? JackDorsey on Twitter, and begin tweeting on his Twitter feed about this concern we have that he's not a free speech advocate at all, that he doesn't love the Constitution, and perhaps he might even be anti-American. What other messages should we send to Jack Dorsey there at Twitter?
Well, ensuring that when it comes to complaints of those whose accounts have been shut down, that the people who are reviewing those complaints are not viewing them through the lens of, well, I don't like the message because it's conservative, it's supportive of Trump, it's X, Y, and Z, but actually looking at it as, does this violate our terms of condition? Does it violate our guidelines? And if not, then even if I don't like it as an employee of Twitter or as an employee of any social media company, I still shouldn't I shouldn't shut it down just because I disagree with the actual content. And so there's a user element. There's an employee element that's a part of this, and then there is the actual just how their algorithms and how they determine what kind of content we get to see and what kind we don't get to see. I think all of that plays a role.
Well, I'm certainly going to be a friend of Jack Dorsey's, I think. So we're going to, maybe we should do that with Facebook too, find out what their CEO's handle is there on Facebook and
Mark Zuckerberg.
And good. And start posting post on his page as well. We are talking with Patrice Lee Onwuka of the Independent Women's Forum about Twitter banning AOC parody site is progressive privilege at its finest. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch our TV show on AUN TV Network in Northern California. Rick Trader, my co-host, and I will be right back with our guest after these messages.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is Sharron Angle. And I once again want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to us on stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Long Beach, California, and now Arlington, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. As Rick Manning says, if you can't find us, you're just not looking. Also, you can see us on AUN TV. Our guest is Patrice Onwunka. She's a senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum. We've been talking about Twitter banning AOC parody site as progressive privilege at its finest. Patrice, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Sure.
Patrice, he also wrote another article about Kamala Harris should not axe her tax cuts. But before we get to that, I wanted to comment on a couple of things that you and Sharron were talking about in the first segment. Sharron, I think, mischaracterized us, the Conservative Commandos radio show, as being pinched by Facebook. I say it's mischaracterized. We haven't been pinched. We have joined the list of banned sites.
Wow.
Our website, CCRShow.com, has been banned by Facebook as, quote, violating their community standards. When we ask for a review, they refuse to review that. At least they haven't done that in 2 weeks. You and Sharron were talking about Twitter being a private company, Facebook being a private company, and you said, well, maybe they have a right to do business with whom they want to. But let me ask you this, Patrice, as being a black lady. What if I had a company and didn't want to deal with you because you were black or you were a female? Isn't that discrimination?
It is, according to the law, federal law and state laws. The challenge is that conservatism or philosophical thought is not a protected class, the way race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation is also a protected class. So those are protected by law. Which means that if you are discriminated against, that you can find legal remedy. As a conservative, as someone who leans right in our thinking, who embraces free markets, who embraces individual responsibility, we don't necessarily get that same kind of protection. Now, there's nothing wrong in advocating and pushing forward for the Constitution to be amended in terms of our laws pertaining to discrimination, to add philosophical thought as a protected class.
I don't think it had.
I don't know what it would take, but it would be interesting.
I think just an act of Congress, actually, because I don't think it was a constitutional amendment that made certain groups more privileged than others. I really don't. So maybe what we need some people. I would love for conservatives, Patrice. I've shared with this Sharron before. I would love for conservatives to be as litigious as liberals. Use the courts the way the liberals have to push their agendas. One other question I want to ask you about. You you served as national spokesman and communications director for Generation Opportunity. You also worked at the Philanthropy Roundtable and the Fund for American Studies. So you know communications, Patrice. Another tool I think we should start using and heavily is our conservative dollars. I think that we should take a page out of the Barack Obama playbook and reward our friends and punish our enemies. I think that we should go on a national campaign for users of Facebook and Twitter to boycott their advertisers. Your thoughts on that idea?
I'd love to see a little bit more. Can you flesh that out a bit more for me? What do you mean by boycotting their advertisers?
Well,
clicking on the links that pop up.
By not clicking on the links, and also posting comments that we will not deal with your company because you advertise on Facebook, and Facebook is discriminating against conservatives and people that have Judeo-Christian views. And by doing that, you, Mr. Advertiser, are missing out on a large dollar, and you, Mr. Advertiser, are also discriminating.
It would be interesting, I think, to see that happen. Here's the pushback that I see. It seems to work very well when the causes are progressive. that people are boycotting advertisers for. When it's a progressive cause, they seem to listen. When it's a conservative cause, I don't know if advertisers in these companies actually respond in the same way. That's not to say it couldn't happen or wouldn't work, but I'm just making an observation. But I think your points about, we need to use speak with our dollars is a really good point. When a company recognizes that its clients are leaving, and that's a market signal simply of price and demand. If we are not satisfied with the services that we're getting and we go elsewhere, or even for a short period of time stop using goods and services, they do pay attention. And so, yeah, perhaps a national campaign doing that could wake up some of these companies.
Well, I'm with you on that. Patrice, we only got about a minute or so left, but I really wanted to touch on another one of your articles because I think it's important. Kamala Harris should not axe our tax cuts. In a minute or so, could you tell us a little bit about that article?
Oh, Kamala Harris is running for president. We know that. And her tax policy plan would be to overturn the 2017 Republican-passed tax cuts under President Trump, get rid of them entirely, and replace it with a tax plan of her own, which really is like Robin Hood in reverse. It takes from all of us and gives to just a few. Now, realize what this means. This means it would be repealing the doubling of the standard deduction, the doubling of the child tax credit, the tax cuts on the individual side that every income level received. And this is not just coming from like a right-leaning tax policy center. Left-leaning tax foundation, left-leaning tax organizations recognize that there were tax cuts for every income level in 2017. She wants to overturn that, and she's using her line about this being about the wealthy benefiting, which the Washington Post gave her 4 Pinocchios for, and she instead wants to give some sort of tax plan that would give certain families kind of a tax credit that they could take either at the end of the year or on a monthly basis. Again, she is taking from all of us workers who have benefited from the tax reform in different ways, including corporations and small family businesses that had their taxes cut. She wants to wipe that all out and replace that with her tax plan that would really just go to a few targeted potential voters. That is the wrong thing we need right now. The economy is stellar. Unemployment is low, and it is because of smart growth, tax cuts, and deregulation that we have that. She wants to wipe that out and turn things around. Oh, by the way, Joe Biden wants to do the same thing. I say, no way, Jose.
Well, maybe they'll do a little research on Walter Mondale. Just throw that out there.
Okay.
Patrice Sanwonko, Independent Women's Forum. I love the ladies at the Independent Women's Forum. I really do. But Patrice, please tell our listeners how they could follow your work and the work of the IWF.
Please go to iwf.org. We've got blogs, we've got opinion pieces, videos, all the commentary you can imagine on hot topics of the day.
All right. Patrice Sanwonko, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Thank you. You too. Good to see you both.
Same. Well, it's good to see you too. And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is Sharron Angle. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our next guest, Robert Knight from the Washington Times.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Hartman, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect.
How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
People die and fall for the right it's too brutal.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
Thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. And you can find our radio show, our TV show, a lot of great articles, a lot of terrific information. At least we think so. Facebook has a problem with it, but that's their problem. Sharron, our next guest is with us, a longtime friend of ours. Please introduce him.
Well, it's a great honor to introduce Robert Knight, who is a Washington Times contributor. His experience includes editor and writer at the Los Angeles Times. He's a regular weekly columnist for the Washington Times, townhall.com, and onenewsnow.com. Robert was a media fellow at the Hoover Institute. He's held senior positions with the Heritage Foundation, Family Research Council, Concerned Women for America, Media Research Center, and his latest books are A Strong Constitution, What Would America Look Like If We Followed the Law, and A Nation Worth Fighting For, 10 Steps to Restore Freedom. Robert, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, thank you for having me on, Sharron and Rick.
Well, it's always such a pleasure to introduce your books. I can't agree more. What would America look like if we followed the law? It's kind of
a lot better.
Yeah, it's sad that we even have to answer the question. That we even have to ask that question.
We are in a lawless situation where a single district judge somewhere can overthrow the will of the people. The policy by the executive branch or Congress. I mean, it's just, judicial tyranny is one part of the puzzle, but there's a lot more to it.
Well, you've written another article, and we just want to jump right into it. It's called, you titled it, The Cyberbullies Moment. And you're talking about a fellow named Brian Sims who's having his 15 minutes of fame or notoriety, depending on your point of view. So talk to us a little bit about Brian Sims, the cyberbully.
Well, some people must like him because he was elected from a district in Philadelphia to the Pennsylvania state legislature. But he's an outspoken and I would say exhibitionist type of politician. He has a very lively Twitter feed where he insults people. He insulted Vice President Pence when Vice President visited Philadelphia last year. He put a big picture of himself, this is Brian Sims, with a smile and holding very clearly his fist out with an extended middle finger, and said, let me be the first to officially welcome you to the city of brotherly love and to my district. We're a city of soaring diversity. We believe in the power of all people, black, brown, queer, trans, atheist, and immigrant. So get bent, then get out. Real classy. But that was not that bad compared to what he did just last week. And he was outside a Planned Parenthood clinic, and he saw a single older lady quietly praying outside the clinic, and he came up and harassed her for 8 minutes and videotaped the whole thing. Kept trying to stick the camera in her face, yelled, "Shame on you, what you're doing here is disgusting." And then he called her a racist. And of course, Brian Sims is a white guy, and the lady was what he called an old white lady. And then he called her a racist. And I don't know what you do with that. Maybe this particular clinic catered to largely minority communities, which is often the case with Planned Parenthood. They have a lot of clinics in minority areas, stemming from their roots, as originally formed by eugenicist Margaret Sanger, who wanted to get rid of human weeds. And by that she meant black people primarily.
Well, and possibly Brian Sims is a human weed. My goodness.
Well, I said depending on your viewpoint, yeah. I don't think he's a credit to any race or any political party. But he's still on Twitter. The point of my column was that a guy like that, who's incredibly insulting and he throws terms around and abuses people, Twitter and their censors seem to have no problem. And yet, if you run afoul of Twitter, you do so because you're a conservative. Lots of conservatives have been banned. Same with Facebook. They have Facebook jail, they call it, where that's what people who've been banned by Facebook call it, where they suspend you for a while until you behave. I suppose you need to wear a dunce cap and be paraded through the streets like Chairman Mao's Cultural Revolution. But, anything less than that and you're still off Facebook.
Well, and you did cite an example of someone who did get detweeted, banned from Twitter.
Well, yeah.
Bishop E.W. Jackson Sr., who ran for Virginia Lieutenant Governor. So here's a politician. So it's not just that they're being kind to politicians because Brian Sims is a politician. Yeah, this goes deeper than that, doesn't it?
Oh, far deeper, and it really is obvious once you start chronicling it. And Bishop Jackson, who's a great guy, really bridled at British reality TV star Andy West, who was on an MSNBC interview, and also he tweeted that there's no excuse for terror attacks against innocent people, and he was talking about the bombings of the churches in Sri Lanka on Easter Sunday that killed 321 people, also bombings at hotels. He says, but as a journalist, I saw Western Christian missionaries unscrupulously converting Buddhist orphans for food and shelter after the Asian tsunami. Don't send your prayers, he wrote. So Bishop Jackson said, my gosh, he's comparing Christians to Muslim terrorists. And Bishop Jackson wrote this: Muslims are the ones who try to terrorize and intimidate people into conversions or kill them for converting from Islam. To compare Muslims murdering Christians to Christians doing missionary work is anti-Christian bigotry. boom, he gets a notice. You're banned from Twitter until you take that tweet down. And that was 3 weeks ago. He's still banned from Twitter over that. All he was doing was speaking the truth.
Well, and you mentioned that over on Facebook, Illinois Family Institute writer Lori Higgins. Now, talk about this. Are Facebook and Twitter connected or only in ideology?
Just in ideology. They're not corporately connected. They're all based in Northern California and Silicon Valley. So they're, and Google is there too. So the cyber world is very much affected by the political culture there, which is far left. So what they see as hate speech often is just a conservative opinion. It's particularly on sexual issues because of the nature of San Francisco and the whole idea that anything should go sexually and anybody who says otherwise is a hater. And you see this in the advancing of the transgender agenda and the LGBTQ agenda. Most of the bannings seem to be Christians who have dared to defend marriage or dared to criticize Islamic terrorism.
Well, getting back to Mr. Sims and just what he's been doing as far as being a bully, you talk about April 18th on a live stream. Mr. Sims went after several pro-life teen girls. How did he do that?
Oh, yeah, I should have brought that up. I'm glad you did, Sharron. Yeah, it was in the same area. It was the same clinic, and they were out front minding their own business, protesting. When I say minding my own business, they weren't picking on anyone. They were just voicing their opinion. So he called for to offer a reward of $100 to identify any of the girls so they could look up their contact information and harass them. This is called doxing, D-O-X-I-N-G, and it means finding documentation. This is what they did to the kid at the pro-life rally who was mistakenly charged or said to have harassed a Native American at the pro-life rally. And it was Nick Sandeman, I guess. And they were calling to dox him and harass him at his home and that sort of thing. And this is what they do. If you disagree with them, they take it personally to you and try to get you harassed at your workplace, at your home, anywhere. It's nasty. It ought to be illegal. And I think we need more pushback. We need more people suing over this kind of tactic.
Well, certainly you mentioned our friend in the MAGA hat who has now got his lawyers together and they're suing for over $250,000. And I think that you're exactly right. We need to become activists ourselves. It was astounding. You mentioned this in your article in 2008 when the Prop 8 marriage amendment went on the California ballot. They looked up all of those supporters and they were burning things in their lawns. It was awful how they pinpointed those residences. Go ahead.
They found out where they worked and tried to get them fired. And it was just this shouldn't happen in a free country. And I guess the poster boy for this on the wrong side of it is Brendan Eich, who was the founder and chairman of Mozilla Firefox, and they found out 8 years later that he'd actually given $1,000 to the pro-marriage amendment, and so they said, "Oh, he can't be part of Mozilla anymore," and they fired him. I mean, this is outrageous. Even in 2008, Obama said he was for marriage. I mean, this going back and discovering, lurking politically incorrect opinions and then trying to punish people is what the left is all about these days. They have a totalitarian mindset, and they've got to be stopped. I mean, this has got to stop if we're going to keep a free country.
Well, I know that our producer, Rick Trader, is going to want to talk to you about how to do that, how to stop them. He has some ideas of his own that run by you. But we're all about that, Robert, here on Conservative Commandos radio show. We feel that it's outrageous just as you do. We are talking with our guest, Robert Knight, who is a Washington Times contributor. And he has written an article, The Cyber Bullies Moment, about Brian SIMS, a legislator that has been doxing and bullying over Twitter. And we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch our show on the AUN TV network in Northern California. My co-host Rick Trader, and I will be back with our guest Robert Knight right after these messages.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is Sharron Angle. And our guest this segment is Robert Knight. He's a Washington Times contributor. Robert has written a very interesting article. Of course, it's interesting, or we wouldn't have him here, but he's written a very interesting article, The Cyber Bullies Moment. Robert, thank you for holding through our break. We always appreciate your time and your knowledge of things.
Well, thanks for having me on, Rick and Sharron.
This guy, Brian SIMS, a Democrat, Pennsylvania state legislator, not a very nice guy, out on the streets of the city of brotherly love, in front of a Planned Parenthood clinic where other people were praying. I'll say that because my wife, she hasn't been to this Planned Parenthood, but I know what goes on at these vigils in front of abortion clinics. These people go and pray, simply pray. He got in her face, calls her racist. He also was calling for some information. He wanted to dox some teenage girls who were also praying at the same location, offering $100 to anyone who could identify them so they could be bullied. Robert, I think you wrote it correctly when you said pretty disgusting behavior for an elected official.
Yeah, actually disgusting for anybody, but especially an elected official who's supposed to comport himself as a gentleman. He doesn't seem capable of that, apparently. But here's the good news. You know, the pro-life community turned out on the Friday after this story broke, and something like 1,000 people showed up to protest Brian Sims and the way he harassed this older lady and the teenage girls, and to call for closing the clinic. And said what's really disgusting is what's going on inside the clinic, not what's going on outside with protesters who were praying that people will stop the killing.
Well, you know, Robert, maybe this Brian Sims is getting a taste of his own medicine. I'll tell you why. He can't be found. He's in hiding now. Maybe some people are giving him a little bit in his own medicine. Maybe they're doxing him. You know, it's not that hard to find somebody's address and telephone number, Bob. And
yeah, I'm afraid that's the case.
Well, do you think it's time for turnabout to be fair play? That people like this Brian Sims, that somebody should dox him?
Good question. You know,
I mean, it's an effective tactic. It's an effective tactic from the left. And, you know, maybe we should take a page from that good old Barack Obama that says, don't go to a knife fight with a knife, go with a gun. Reward our friends, punish our enemies.
Well, I like the sentiment. It's just how we go about it. And, you know, the doxing, going personal, going to people's homes, you know, what if there are children there? I think it's a bad idea. You know.
Well, I don't think Brian has children unless there's some miracle of life.
Well, he might have acquired them by adoption, but he's an outspoken LGBTQ self-pronounced activist, so he probably doesn't have kids at home. But you know, this whole doxing thing, you're right. It's a tactic of the left. It's been going on for years. I remember when Senator Jesse Helms had protesters come to his home in Northwest Washington and block traffic and just make life miserable for his neighbors, hoping that they would hate him as a result. They even put a giant condom on his chimney. Ha ha ha. You know, I mean, they thought it was hilarious. And here's the question we have to face, and I'm all for tough action, and I think there has to be far more pushback, especially legal pushback. You know, drag these people into court, make them pay for what they've done to others, make them pay for harassing people. I think we might lose the moral high ground if we do some of the same tactics. Some of them are fine. You know, like, protesting companies that support this kind of stuff. I'm all for boycotts. There are lots of things we can do that are perfectly legitimate.
And I think one of the things we definitely can do, we can call his legislative office. I wish I wrote down the number, but it is available. He's from Philadelphia. Brian Sims lives in Philadelphia. He represents a district in Philadelphia. You can easily Google him and get his telephone number of at least his office if you don't want to do more. Well, Robert, you've been a guest here on Conservative Commandos. Oh, we have you on once or twice a month, and that's been going on for the last 8 or 10 years. By the way, did you know that we are banned by Facebook? Now, our website has been banned by Facebook, so you can add us to your list with Dennis Prager and Bishop Jackson and some other good conservatives. Add the Conservative Commandos to that with Alex Jones, Diamonds and Silk, James Woods, David Horowitz. You know, we are banned. You also mentioned in your article, by the way, great article. Always love reading your articles, even when we don't have an opportunity to have you on the show. I read your articles once a week, Robert. You have on here talking about the reaction to Brian SIMS. Neither ABC, CBS, NBC Nightly News programming paid any attention to Pennsylvania State Representative Brian SIMS' 8-minute-plus video of him bullying a peaceful pro-life protester. Talk about the media's reaction, if you will, Robert Knight.
Yeah, if this had been the shoe on the other foot, of course, if it had been conservatives somehow harassing some liberal outfit, they would have found space for it on the news. And of course, this is what Media Research Center chronicles. So they can't argue that it's just your perception. It doesn't really happen that way. Media Research Center for years has been tracking and using scientific means to compare the number of minutes that are devoted to particular stories and how they're slanted. And Newsbusters, which is one of the parts of the Media Research Center, noted that even that Telemundo and Univision also failed to cover the matter. Only Fox had anything about it. And I didn't put it in here, but I think Tucker Carlson addressed it. And that's often the case.
He himself being a victim of doxing. And Robert, you invoke the name of Teddy Roosevelt and the word trust. Do you think maybe it's time to look at these media giants like Facebook, Google, YouTube, Twitter for antitrust regulations?
Well, actually, I do, and I'm not the only one. In fact, Facebook's co-founder, Chris Hughes, has called to break up Facebook. He said it's a monopoly. It's operating like that, and it's strangling the free flow of information, and it's time the government looked at it like a public utility. You know, I'm not eager to have government intervene into the marketplace, but when the marketplace is monopolized and they're so big that competitors can't even get a foothold, then there might be some room for action. Teddy Roosevelt went after the trusts because they got so powerful. There wasn't really true competition and a marketplace. So perhaps it's time to go after the cyber giants for the same reason.
All right. Remember Ma Bell, remember Ma Bell?
Oh, yeah, they broke up Ma Bell. And I guess it worked out. It seems like we've had a technological explosion since then.
And I love the competition. Just think of how much our phone rates have gone down. Heck, you can make a phone call for free nowadays. So, you know, competition is a good thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hey, Robert Knight, it's graduation time. Colleges, high schools, whatever. Maybe we need to instill a little intelligence into the minds of these graduates. Maybe they should be given gifts. For instance, there's a couple of great books out there they can probably pick up wisdom from. A Strong Constitution, What Would America Look Like If We Followed It? And A Nation Worth Fighting For. 10 Steps to Restore Freedom. Robert, don't you think that's a great idea? Buy these books, give them as gifts to these graduates?
Oh, yeah, and they're very tightly written. I did that on purpose for accessibility. So they're documented, they're tightly written, and I think they will present a story they just will not hear on campus.
And how would people get these books? Okay.
Well, they could email me at robertknight4@gmail.com. That's robertknight4@gmail.com, and that's the number 4. Or they can go to djkm.org. That's D. James Kennedy Ministries, and they have them in their bookstore there.
What, Amazon?
I don't, I haven't looked to see because the D. James Kennedy published them, and I don't know whether they put them up on Amazon or not. I would hope they did.
All right. Robert Knight.
I'm busy writing another book. So.
Well, I always say if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it, and we always appreciate you here, Robert.
So I appreciate you having me on, Rick and Sharron.
Tell our audience where they could read this article. Great article, by the way.
Right now, they'll be able to read it on townhall.org tomorrow. They can read it today on the Washington Times website, washingtontimes.com.
All right. Robert Knight, Washington Times. We always appreciate you having here. Take care, and God bless.
Yeah, God bless you guys, too. Bye.
And this is the Conservative Commandos with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Don't go away. We'll be back with more right after this break.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Well, Sharron, that just about wraps it up for today. Sharron, I love doing the show with you, and I learned so much from you and our guests. It's great 2 hours of my day.
And mine as well. But, you know, it's the guests that really make our show. And we want to thank 3 old friends, Frank Vernuccio for coming on and talking about what we can do, perhaps what we can do about regulatory agencies, 1,300 of them that shouldn't even be in existence as far as you and I are concerned.
It's mind blower.
Our good friend Patrice Onwuka, who is with the Independent Women's Forum, talking about Twitter and their bias. And then finally, our friend Robert Knight, who is a Washington Times contributor, talking about an infamous now, I believe, legislator in Pennsylvania using Twitter as a place to bully teenage girls from. This is just outrageous, but it was a great show, Rick, and I was glad to be here with you as well.
Same here, Sharron. How can people follow you when you're not here on Conservative Commandos?
Well, they can go to SharronAngle.com, SharronAngle.com.
All right. But for right now, we are out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.